welcome back to Consumer Guard, the show that's on the lookout for you. We'll be taking in calls a little later in the show. To join in our conversation, log into ann7.com and click on the Consumer Guard link. And guess what? We will keep in touch with you. Yes, we'll call you back. Now, even though most people are content in paying for their cell phone services, the one thing they have gripe with is the high cost of data. And I agree with them. Data must fall.
South Africa has the second most expensive data prices amongst the BRICS countries. With the most expensive being Brazil and Russia the cheapest. The average data speeds with our local networks. Vodacom is said to be the quickest at 13.4 megabytes per second, followed by MTN at 6.4 megabytes per second, while both Cell C and Telkom coming in at 4.4 megs per second as released by Axios Network Research. Based on the analysis and comparison of the figures customers pay, we asked the question on whether they are happy with the upload and download speeds from their networks.
Am I impressed with the download and upload speeds? I'm not that impressed because it's a 50-50, to be honest. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's very, very slow, so it's a 50-50 situation.
The download speed is great. There isn't any other time where I would think that the service was slow.
I feel like the cell phone networks will eventually go in a direction that is favorable to us users. But right now, because of the kind of work I do need data.
Well, basically, I connect to Wi-Fi all over, so it's not that much. But if I do use data, it's about 2 to 3 gigs a month, which isn't bad, and the cost is also not too bad.
Majority of South African consumers are not impressed with how quickly their data gets depleted, with the most accusing their networks of stealing their data. Despite the contentment that most feel with their networks, consumers say there are some providers that they would never port to.
Whew. Which network would I never port to? Throwing a bit of shade, but I'd never port to MTN. MTN had a very rough year last year. A lot of customers were complaining that their data was finishing out of nowhere. They weren't getting any coverage. I know a friend of mine's phone was just off, or the network was just not on for 3 days in a row.
Considering that I don't know much about the other networks, so, well, according to what people are always saying about Vodacom, I probably would not go to Vodacom.
I will never port to Cell C because the experience that I've had with Cell C, their coverage is not so great. In fact, when I moved to MTN, I was with Cell C.
Looking at all the networks, I'll never port to Cell C due to the dropped calls and the high price of data and calling.
Even though the cell phone market is not as competitive as we would like, Terrific.com has made it their mission to find a formula that determines the cheapest option for individuals and companies, all on a click of a button.
When it comes to companies that have the interests of consumers at heart, there aren't that many that would pass the customer's test. Terrific.com is one such company that has managed to come up with a way to help consumers and companies save on their cellular costs.
We've got some really incredible scientific technology that helps consumers and companies save money on their cell phone bills. So we do that by analyzing a person's cell phone bill, having a look at each call they make, each bit of data they use, and seeing how they're actually using their phone, and then using that to find the perfect cell phone packages and bundles for them on every network. We work with consumers, and we've got a free offering where consumers could go to our website.
Even though the core of their business is from corporate, they have tailor-made methods of understanding how consumers use their phones via their cell phone bills or airtime and data usage. Once the info is gathered, the optimization technology is able to compare usage against current offers in the market, saving consumers between 30 and 40% on their contracts.
We also work with a whole bunch of companies as well. We work with large companies. We've worked with some of the biggest companies in South Africa to help them save and manage their cell phone bills. But we also work with smaller companies, and we've actually got an offering that we're about to launch, which will cater to SMEs as well, to help SMEs save money on their cell phone bills.
Steve believes that South Africans are getting value for their money as costs have come down a lot in the past couple of years.
When it comes to the cost of data, we agree with the whole data must fall campaign that was in all the news headlines last year. Terrific has actually done a study, and we compared the cost of data contracts in South Africa with the other BRICS countries, and we included Kenya and Australia there as well. And we found that when comparing South Africa data costs with all those other countries, South Africa was the second most expensive after Brazil. So Brazil had the most expensive data contracts and South Africa was second to that. So there's definitely room for data prices to come down, and we encourage all the cell phone network operators to do whatever they can to bring those costs down, which will ultimately benefit consumers.
The biggest challenge for consumers, however, is the unnecessary services on their contracts which they end up paying for, making their cell phone bills high.
It is true that the majority of consumers pay for their services that they don't use, especially on the contracts, and data is one thing that we need. But cell phone network companies can't seem to explain why the cost is so high.
The discovery of disappeared data is a common shock to most cell phone users. While networks believe it's because users leave apps running in the background.
I must say, data does not disappear. Something is using the data. But I think us as consumers don't always realize what it is. And I can mention a few things. First of all, our behavior has changed. If you look at 5 years ago, for instance, versus now, we spend much more time on our cell phones. You know, we browse. I've seen statistics where the average South African spends 3 hours on social media a day. You know, that did not happen in the past. So our behavior has changed. We watch more movies, we do more photos. So that's the one thing, our behavior has changed. The other thing that's happened is the network and the device has far greater capability and performance. So if I watch a video today, even the same video that I watched 5 years ago, but today that video is in high definition. Today my device, the resolution of my device is even better than the resolution on my TV. So what people don't realize, although you watch a movie, the amount of data consumed by that movie is much higher than what it was in the past.
Though data prices have come down by a considerable amount in the last couple of years, consumers are still feeling the punch when you compare our rates with other countries. Another contributing factor, unsubstantiated data expiry, forcing consumers unrealistic usage or face losing it back to the networks. Cell phone companies, however, compare data to a car park service which expires after a certain time. Well, as it stands, it is even more apparent that companies need to invest in infrastructure that will expand their capacity. As most consumers use smartphones, their phones use apps that consume data. The networks simply don't have the capacity to accommodate the users. Hence the slow internet. This in turn results in data vanishing from our phones because with no network, phones try harder to connect, thus using more data to connect. Networks also blame the inflation rate as a contributing factor to high data prices, yet it has become their biggest income stream.
Yes, we certainly want to bring the cost of data down. I can mention a few things though. The first thing is, over the last 4 years, the cost of data have dropped by 65%. So that's a massive drop. And if you consider, food prices, inflation, fuel, electricity, show me any other commodity or anything else where the prices have dropped by 65%. What one also has to understand then that there's inflationary pressures. So an operator like us employ people, they have salary increases, we have to pay more for electricity, we expand the network. So there's a lot of upward pressures. We don't even always consider it. A lot of our electronic equipment is bought from overseas. So when the value of the rand deteriorates, we suddenly overnight pay 20-30% more for equipment. So there's a lot of pressures up.
Should you have any inquiries with your service provider regarding the quality of your network, your first point of contact should be the service provider themselves. In case you don't get any joy with that, ICASA are online to deal with network-related disputes and can be reached via email on chairperson@icasa.org.za. They'll also protect you from unfair business processes like being charged for services you did not agree on. For all your contract disputes, the Consumer Goods and Services Ombudsman will be handy. However, MTN subscribers should contact info@cgso.org.za. Should you be a Vodacom, Cell C or Telkom mobile user, contact the National Consumer Commission for all your contractual disputes on complaints@the.ncc.org.za. To draw this matter to conclusion on whether South Africans are getting their money's worth relating to the quality of the networks, we at Consumer Guard feel the networks can do much better. Within BRICS countries, when it comes to airtime out-of-bundle charges, South Africa may not be in the top 3 expensive countries, which are Russia, Turkey and Brazil, but we are nowhere close to other emerging markets like India, China and Mexico. In fact, South Africa has the 3rd most expensive in-bundle rate within the BRICS countries, charging an estimated R2.30 per minute in-bundle rate compared to India and China, which charges 49 cents per minute. We also can't be having drop calls or bad network connections in this day and age where they are promising 5G. We certainly need more competitors within this sector that would give those who are comfortable and content a run for their money. Now to help you save, here's this week's Consumer Tip of the Week.
We also recommend looking at your cell phone bill and seeing what extra costs you're being charged for. A lot of people are still paying for BlackBerry services, for example, when they haven't had a BlackBerry phone in 2 years. And that will come up on your bill, on your invoice as an extra cost. A lot of people also paying for content services. So they're paying for daily horoscopes and daily weather SMSs and all these things that most people don't even know they signed up for. And you could be charged a few rand a day for those kind of services. So we recommend that consumers go check their bill, make sure you're aware of what you're being charged for, and then cancel the services that you aren't using.
Well, that's all we have on our show today. Be sure to hit us up on our website, nn7.com, for all your consumer issues. Otherwise, join us again next week as we discuss the ever-increasing prices of staple foods like maize meal and bread. See you next time.